Welcome back, everyone. I'm Rusty Rockhound, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you a rockhounding adventure from Wisconsin on Lake Michigan from last December. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We are not doing too well out here with the actual water line being covered with snow. I can't really see all the fresh rocks. I found a couple of fossils and sorts, but no really nice agates yet. Alright, so first up, let's take a look at the corals that I found. Here we have a nice, slightly yellow silicified coral fossil. It doesn't have that much detail when it's dry, but when it's wet, you can see slightly more details in the coral. I'm not sure exactly what type of coral this is, but as you can see right there, it has some circular cells. So, I'm not sure, but it is definitely interesting and very pretty. This one's pretty similar because it has the same color and the cells are also circular, I believe. This one's pretty cool because it's almost like you can see the whole piece of coral itself. So like grew off right here. You can see this sort of host rock here. You can see the cells, some sparkly crystals. This piece is very cool because this is a agatized phagocytes. You can see inside those cells, you have some agate bands in a few of those cells. Not every single one, but you can also see a bunch of crystals and sparkles. And there's that one wet. You can see all those agate bands inside those cells. It's pretty cool. This is a pretty small example, but it's a very nice example. This one shines light through it very well. You can see some pretty big cells on that, so this was probably a pretty mature piece of coral. It just happens to be a very small piece. And finally, we have this coral fossil. I initially picked it up because I thought that this coral on this side and the coral on this side would shine light through it, but unfortunately it doesn't. Sticking with the coral fossils, this one is a first for me. I was very excited to find this. This is my first chain coral. When it's wet, you can really see how it looks like a chain. It almost looks like an interlocking net of cells, and that's pretty cool. The other side doesn't look like much, but this side is pretty cool. You may remember this rock from this video, and that is exactly what I thought these two were when I found them on the beach. This one I'm not so sure of anymore. It doesn't look very similar. However, this one I am confident is related to this one. I just believe that this is this same dark part of this whole rock. This right here is another first for me. This is a tube coral. It's kind of creepy looking, but it's also pretty cool how you can see all those different tubes just poking through this rock. I have no idea what type of fossil this is, but it is very, very interesting. It may be some type of coral, and it may be something else. I honestly have no idea, so if you know, make a comment. Here we have the stromatoporoid fossils. A stromatoporoid is an ancient sea sponge, and you can see all those different lines in there. When I first found these, I thought they might have been agates, but now I know better, and I know that these are actually stromatoporoid fossils. It also has some very nice detail. This one is a slightly more yellow color. You can see half of that one wet, and there's a lot of detail in this one. It's very cool. This one is probably the best stromatoporoid I found, mostly because of its nice translucency. Under a flashlight, this one shines through very nice. And of course, I'll have photos at the end of the video of all these rocks under lights, etc. And here's this one wet. This is just a small, interesting rock I picked up because of the green color. This is definitely some sort of mineral, and I'm interested to figure out what type of mineral that is. so I picked it up so I could do a little bit of research on it. You may remember this rock from this video, and that is what I believe this rock is that I found on this hunt. It doesn't have the same sort of waterline banding, but it definitely has the same colors and same sort of smoothness to it. This one actually has some weird sort of circles. They almost look like eyes. However, I just don't really believe that these are agates. However, they might be agates with this other one that looks a lot like it could be a waterline agate. It just doesn't really seem right because these aren't translucent at all. So, who knows? Got eyes on this one, water lines on this one. Maybe they are some weird sort of obscure agate. Right here is a very, very nice fossil. The details are very, very good dry, and they actually don't get any better wet. It is very similar to this fossil that I found. However, this one has way more detail. And finally, here are all the agates I found, or the kind of sort of agates. Starting here with this tiny, tiny rock, you can see there is sort of a seam agate going through the middle of this rock. It's a nice little blue color. I wouldn't personally call this an agate, but maybe it contains agate. This one doesn't look like much when it's dry, but when it's wet you can see a nice seam of agate going through. And I think this one is pretty cool. This one right here is a little bit sparkly when it's dry. Everything else is just this brown sort of husk, but then right here you got a lot of those eyes and those bubbles of chalcedony. And finally, here is the best find of the hunt. It is this sort of weird quartz rock almost with this agate nodule still stuck inside. You can see the brown husk, which is consistent with all the agates I find on that beach. You have this quartz on the inside of the agate, and then right here you can see some nice agate bands. Here's that one wet. You can see the brown husk surrounding the quartz interior, and of course those nice yellow agate bands. The rest of the rock is really weird. I'm not sure if it's some sort of fossil or what, but it kind of looks like it might be one. But yeah, there's the best find of the hunt. And that is everything I found on that very snowy rock hounding adventure. So thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.